Since retiring from the public eye, I have resigned myself to a life of solitude. For 2 years, I started my day watching supermarkets sweep. Days, then weeks, blurred into one long, sorry afternoon chat show. The next thing I know, some government goons show up at my house. Seems they've caught a whiff of old Mr. Sunshine himself. Raz. He's back in the media dimension, and they think I'm crazy enough to go back in after him. So they whisked me away to Interrogation 101. They play rough. Start giving me the business. I give a little back. So we negotiate a little something to cover my expenses. They throw in one of those secret agent suits, and I tell them we've got a deal. Looks like I'm heading back into the media dimension. There's going to be deja, ouch, all over again. Nice try, big boy.
Alrighty, hello everybody, I am Skully the Metalhead, and welcome to the Gex 3D Enter the Gecko commentary. Yes, after all that doom and gloom with Doom 3, I think we needed a game that's returning to a little bit more of the platformer side of things, and oh my god, this game has so much 90s jam-packed into it that it just kind of infects my soul. And goddamn do I love it for that, because Gex 3D Enter the Gecko was a fantastic game, and in terms of it being a platform in and of itself, it's, well, while it does kind of rely on a lot of the 90s tropes that were established in Super Mario 64, I still think it does fantastically well using its own aesthetics, which you'll see in a little bit. Loading, we are still loading, all on our Oding, that's enough of that. But yes, for those of you not in the know, or at least the kiddies in the audience, Gex 3D Enter the Gecko was a 3D platformer from the late 90s, and, well, basically what it's about is essentially just parodying a bunch of television shows and, well, essentially TV tropes in general, I'd say. And as you can see with this level, it is currently parodying a lot of old cartoons, particularly that of the, I'd say, Warner Brothers cartoons, if only for the fact that there's a lot of tropes taken from it, such as, you know, giant TNTs, flowers that are bouncing around, and generally a lot of slapstick comedy that's, I'd say, quite harsh, I suppose. I mean, the reason I say Warner Brothers is because it seems to have a lot more recognizable set piece, because, I mean, in a little bit you'll see like a lot of, you know, soup cans or carrots as we're collecting right now, which, again, most people would probably know as the trademark of Bugs Bunny, even though carrots are probably more known as a food source than television. But yeah, in any case, decent amount of level tropes, and we'll see more as the game goes on. Now then, a few basics to get out of the way, and a few things, well, I'd say cultural differences, if anything else. First thing to bring up, the voices, which is, of course, to say that the voice change between Dana Gould, who voiced Gex in the original game, and in the US port of the game, is changed in the European/Australian version for reasons that I cannot explain. I mean, I'm not sure whether or not they wanted to go with the whole 007 motif, which Gex Enter the Gecko seems to be strongly parodying, or again, I don't know if there was complaints about Dana Gould's voice. I don't know. But either way, we have Leslie Phillips currently voicing the Green Gecko, and to be perfectly honest, I think Leslie Phillips is probably my favourite Gex voice, despite how ill-fitting for the character it probably is, because I mean, you look at Gex and you're thinking, oh wow, this is probably going to be a TV watcher. I mean, especially comparing Dana Gould's more parodial voice, so to speak, because he tends to divulge into a lot of silly voices every now and again, compared to, you know, Leslie Phillips, who's, well, got a very dry, suave and smooth voice. And again, I'm not really sure what most fans think of Leslie Phillips' voice, but god damn, that's so sexy and smooth. I don't care if the man is not in his 90s, I believe, but Jesus, man, that voice is just, run it down my throat, baby. But in any case, I suppose I could probably get into explaining the gameplay of Gex Enter the Gecko. The name of the game in Gex is essentially a setup similar to, well, quite a few 3D platformers of its day, in the sense that you're going to be completing a bunch of objectives, whether or not it be killing a certain amount of enemies, or, you know, getting a certain amount of collectibles, which will either grant you an extra life, or if you collect all 3 tiers of the collectibles, you shall get a silver remote, I believe. There are 2 silver remotes hidden in the level, and whether or not I show it off, or if I had shown it off but I was too busy commentating, I am not too sure, but I'll probably point it out when we get into the other segments of the levels. Now again, as you can see, you can get collectibles fairly easily, whether or not they're just lying about in the levels, or if you decide to kill enemies, which will grant you 3 of that said collectible. And the good thing about Gex is that you don't necessarily even need to worry about, you know, running out of a specific collectible, or having to, you know, go back to a really obscure place where you might have missed one, because there's going to be more than enough collectibles, despite the tally being up to about, you know, from I believe it's from 30 to 40 to 50 collectibles per tier. Which again, I think is a really fantastic system, because it means that you don't have to stress, you know, looking for the, oh look, it was the one hidden in the corner, which is, you know, obscured by the bushes, and you wouldn't have thought to look there because Nintendo. But again, the less said about that, the better. Now, I believe the first tier of missions that we will be completing, I believe, well, for the first tier of the Out of Tune missions, is the Canyon. Which, of course, we need to get to the canyon and find the television, which is, of course, our means of traveling in and out of levels. Is it kind of sad to say that Gex is somewhat aged as a series, given its focus on television? Like, I mean, in 1998, I mean, this was fairly stock standard, since television was pretty much everybody's main source of media, at an age where the internet was still in its infancy, but now, god, man, we get everything from our online sources. I don't know, I still think there's a very... I still think the 90s charm is still very rampant throughout Gex, and it's part of the reason why I love the game to this day. Like, I mean, again, I might not have had a lot of 90s nostalgia since I was barely a wee lad during that era, but... I don't know, just looking at Gex, it just brings back a certain something, you know? And again, I brought this up in my Jackie Chan Stuntmaster review. It's like, it's a sense of nostalgia that even if you weren't present at the time, it's just the kind of game that kind of takes you right back into that era, even if you haven't really experienced it. And I suppose, to a lot of kids who start experiencing, you know, classic games, I suppose that's the kind of feeling that they could probably resonate with. I mean, I know I certainly did when I started going on my big platformer kick back in the late 2000s. Hooray, we got the remote, yippee-ki-yay. That's another thing I should probably bring up. Remotes are our main collectibles. Collect 3 of them, and we unlock a boss area, which I'll be showing off in a little bit. Excuse me. The thing about remotes, though, is that while you do need to collect a certain amount of them, I believe you don't need to collect all of them to complete the game. Or at the very least a specific amount, because, like... well, let's say Gex is fairly jam-packed with content, but you don't necessarily need to collect all of them just to beat the game. And I can't even remember what happens if you collect all, you know, red, silver, and gold remotes, which I'll get into a little bit as we do have a bonus mission that I think I might be either covering this part or the next part. Yeah, see, it's this right here that just reminds me of a lot of Looney Tunes cartoons, or at the very least just slapsticky cartoons in general, you know. And you usually have to be pretty quick, or, and again, just don't go in a straight line in this area, because usually I believe it just predicts your trajectory, and thus, you know, the direction you're going is where the thing is going to land, so obviously just... ah, god, I'm so sorry. Just change your trajectory, and you'll be pretty fine. Anyway, the second tier of mission, I believe, is to destroy the Elmer Fudd-looking people, who will shoot their guns, and they can apparently curve the bullet because they're in the Matrix, possibly. I don't know. Again, a lot of the missions in Gex are relatively simple challenges, and I suppose one of the edges that I think I can give it outside of Super Mario 64, if my memory serves me correct, is the fact that it actually shows you, you know, the general direction and where each mission is. Which I think is really helpful in showing players exactly where to go, but at the same time leaving them free to explore, you know, any specific mission they want to attempt. I don't know, I guess it just kind of destroys a little bit of the, you know, the possible archaic trappings that, you know, this game could have quite easily fallen under, since in the late 90s, I'd have to say there were more than a few games that did suffer, you know, aging poorly. Which again, you know, you could argue in some respects that Gex didn't exactly age the greatest either. But I don't know, I still think that Gex 3D Enter the Gecko aged pretty decently. Well, in its gameplay, for the most part. I'd say a little bit less so for the references, because you kind of have to be really brushed up on your television lore, I'd say. In fact, I'd say you probably have to be a bit of a TV nerd to get a lot of this shit, because again, it's not just specifically 90s stuff that Gex references, it's a whole lot of television from all, I'd say from spanning the last 30 years from when the game came out, so yeah, it really does pay to brush up on your TV and movie history. Yeah, I suppose I could probably talk about the save feature even if it doesn't come up that very often. Yeah, Gex is one of those games that has a password system, much in the same way that Crash Bandicoot did, and quite a few games did during that time, which again I still think is a pretty ingenious feature that was kind of lost in the PS2 era, because, I don't know, I remember in 2004, just having games and not being able to save them until, I had the money to get a memory card. Again, I mean, the kiddies in this day and age are spoiled with, like, fucking hard drives and autosaves and everything, but I don't know, I mean, it was just something that I felt was really ingenious way of saying, like, okay, look, you might not have a memory card, but don't worry, you're not totally screwed, just enter this password and you're golden. And of course, the third mission, I should say, what the fuck am I thinking? It's probably the most easiest of the bunch, is just to find a bunch of purple mushrooms hidden in the first area, and just go down to the TV, and job's a good'un. Not the red mushrooms, they just give you collectibles. I suppose I don't really have much more to say other than that. Oh yes, here is this secret area where you can find the remotes where it's snowing for some reason. I don't know, television. So I guess you can't really bring up, geometry being entirely accurate. Now, there are silver remotes hidden in similar places, and again, depending upon, how completionist you are, you can find all of them, or if you don't know where they are, just beat the game normally, and I believe the ending actually, the end credits actually show you the remotes that you missed. Which again is a pretty nice incentive to get players to go back and find them all again.
I'm not going into
But, depending upon whether or not you're a completionist or not, it's something that'll appeal to you. Again, I am not a completionist, as my Jack and Daxter review had pointed out significantly as I yelled fuck, which emanated from Australia up into the deepest reaches of space, but, And with that, we say goodbye to Out of Tune. Goodbye, cartoon level, we'll be seeing you later in another variant. Anyway, I've commentated for a little bit, my voice is getting a bit dry, so I'll take a drink of the Pepsi, and we won't be going to Gilligax Island just yet because I am thirsty. See you then.
Transformers.
Ah, delicious. Anyway, welcome back to the Gex. Well, shouldn't really say that because it's only a brief second break, which will allow the viewer to go off and take a piss, get a sandwich, a bottle of chips and dip. What bottle? Jesus. Anyway, the next level is Scream Television, and the level is Smell Razor. Smell you later, loser. Okay, that's enough 90s era catchphrases. Anyway, we have our spooky level set in a spooky house, and now we gotta travel across this decrepit mansion-looking thing, which I think might be a reference to The Shining, or possibly the Dracula movie that I think came out around this time. I think it's the one with... Fuck, I forgot the actor's name. The one with the... I think the one where Homer Simpson remarked that his hair looked totally queer. I forgot what Treehouse of Horror episode that was, but it was the one with the super happy fun slide and where everybody becomes a vampire. And Marge is the head vampire. Apparently. I suppose there's another thing I could remark on as well, because, I mean, a lot of this game, in terms of, its humour, its jokes, and I suppose, the fact that Dana Gould had a lot to do with this game's writing, is that a lot of the time playing Gex Enter the Gecko just feels like you're playing through a Simpsons episode. Which is really weird, since this was in an era before, we actually had some decent Simpsons games with, Hidden Run and the Simpsons game itself. Which I find rather bizarre, and at the same time rather cool, because, you get to see a lot of parodies, and, not necessarily done in the sense like, oh, look at what we're blatantly referencing, with, heavy-handed story plotting out and everything. No, it's just done as, like, more of a visual thing, which I feel is actually a pretty nice and subtle way of handling it, because, again, while you can obviously pick out certain homages, like you can see some Ghost, being a reference to horror movies, or, Dull Enemies being a reference to Charles Lee Ray from the Child's Play movies, it's not done in such a way where it's, going out of its way to go, look at this, children, we're referencing a thing that you know, are we cool now? It's done in a way that I think is fantastic. Anyway, I completely skipped over the entire mission. Our next mission is to smash the blood clawers, which will actually be a mission that returns in Gex 3 Deep Cover Gecko, which is weird because it happens in a bit more of a Sherlock Holmes motifed episode. But anyway. Gotta admit though, I do really like the ambience that comes with some of these horror levels, which again, yeah, Gex Enter the Gecko does have level tropes which it reuses, but again, considering the PlayStation era, I don't really, blame it for that much, because again, I'm sure, space and everything probably would have been something to look out for, rather than making every level unique, which probably would have happened if, Crystal Dynamics got off their lazy ass and stopped ogling Lara Croft's luscious breasts and instead got their ass to making, actual games again, which they haven't done since 2003's Snowblind, if I remember correctly. Yes, I am still bitter about the fact that Core Design lost the rights to Tomb Raider and, Crystal Dynamics was settled with making nothing but Tomb Raider games.
That'll do nicely.
Yes, indeed. Gex, you sexy-voiced motherfucker. What we have now is a fly power-up, which I believe there are only 2 of in this game. The first of which will give you fire powers and turns Gex into the... Fuck, what was the Fantastic Four hero? Was it the Human Flame? Fuck, I can't remember. But yeah, basically it allows him to go faster and climb on walls faster. And there's that ability right there. I'm not exactly sure what exactly activates it, because I think you do have to go in a circle and press a square button to attack, but again, I've never been able to recreate that perfectly. So again, I'm not necessarily sure if I'm doing something wrong, or I don't know. But yeah, it can do that, well, when it wants to, I suppose. And just generally makes you move a little bit quicker. I don't know, I mean, it's a nice ability to have, but it's not exactly essential. I'd say it handles power-ups in a similar manner to the elemental shields from Sonic the Hedgehog, in the sense that while it isn't exactly an all-and-out new ability, but it's more of an extension upon, Gex's moveset, which, again, is the kind of power-up that I prefer, to the Nintendo logic of, oh, look, you have a power-up, here's a puzzle involving said power-up, do the video game thingy with the jumping and the hitting and the lighty, or even... I don't know. But in a general sense... yes, you also get lives after collecting a specific tier, which again, I think getting lives shouldn't really be a problem in Gex, compared to other games where it's usually just stored in boxes. Although you can get lives, in, the little television monitors, which are colorized with, being purple. But again, you shouldn't necessarily worry about lives, since again, if you're going to be collecting things anyway, then you might as well just, pick up all the items you can and siphon some lives in some easier levels if you're having difficulty. I suppose you could probably dissect every little gameplay mechanic, but I think you can pretty much pick it up for yourselves with things like, stand in the light so the ghosts don't eat your soul, and all that kind of garbage. Anyway, with our missions complete, we can then move on to the final mission of Scary TV, unless of course we've already done that. In which case, no, I don't think, because according to my video editor, there is more to come. The worst is yet to come! Yummy. I also do like that the collectible items do change appearance after you collect each tier of them, because, they started out as gravestones, I believe, and then they evolved into hockey masks. I can't remember the second tier because it's been a little while, and I'm a little bit distracted because I have to keep up the commentary flow, which surprisingly I've done a decent job of so far. Then again, we still got future parts, so I look forward to more stumbling there. But I'd say on the whole the first part is going pretty decently, if probably a little bit too energetic for some people's taste. But then again, I don't know, I'm not other people, and I feel alien to the other humans of this planet. Anyway, all the blood claws are... clawless? Claw, dude! All the bug... Oh, fuck, I can't even speak anymore. There goes that good pace. And now we got our remote. Let's watch some televisual programs, even though television is on the way out if our current society is to be believed. What with our consumption of the internet, which is how you're watching this video. Which is kind of saddening, to be honest, because there is something kind of, I don't know, nostalgic about, going on television and, I mean, even watching ads and everything, I mean, that's a bit of an archaic bit of a society that I'll probably sorely miss once I hit, middle age or old age, probably. And then I'll die of a heart palpitation, which will be very depressing. But not unexpected considering my weight. And there you get your first shot of the silver remote, which I suppose was probably done just to indicate, like, okay, look, here's another collectible, which you can see and know where to pick up and find these in the levels and everything. Which I suppose is a pretty decent way of showing the player that there are more collectibles to find, but I don't know. But in any case, this is pretty much just more of a get to the end of the level kind of thing, I believe. Unless, of course, this is referring to the secret entrance, which I think it might be. Well, not secret entrance, secret exit, I think. Which I don't think gets... Well, I say secret entrance, but I say more so for an alternate exit, since there are 3 televisions which are tied to a specific mission, if you could probably tell throughout the different level tiers of this. Hit the fucking thing, you moron. A secret elevator and paintings of historical figures. I think only the Mona Lisa is historical. If the others are painted by famous artists, and I couldn't really pick them out for you, because then again, I'm not very enlightened to it, the art, you know, with the things of the art, whatever. I can't do a decent David Cage impression, which in and of itself is more of an impression of Tom64's David Cage impression, so it's like an impression of an impression of an impression of an impression. Oh my Gideon, I've created a paradox. Skill platforming, dudes. Anyway, just hop over here. And... what is this? I think something is supposed to happen. Yeah, here we go. Oh my god, there is more to the image. Oh, excuse me. The Mona Lisa, she has a beast on her torso. Well, the skeleton didn't really change. How genius. Oh my god, it is the secret remote. Yeah, this is one of the easier ones to find, but then again, it was kind of intentionally made, so I guess to give the player the indication to go off and hunt for them. But, the skulls were the first tier of the collectibles. Well, that answers that question. Anyway, all 3 tiers of the missions are done. Fantastic. Off we go. Oh, those sexy collectibles. Yummy. Yeah, in terms of describing what kind of platformer Gex is, I suppose Collectathon platformer would probably be the best way to describe it. Well, then again, I suppose Collectathon platformers would probably fall more into the tier of, you know, games like Jak and Daxter and all that, which are more open world, but again, I'm not necessarily sure how to describe it. Anyway, this is the first boss of the game, Gilligan's Island, which uses a lot of assets which I'm not sure are necessarily related to Gilligan's Island. Then again, I could be mistaken, so who knows. I mean, I think Gex is wearing a Gilligan's Island character's attire, but yeah. Anyway, first boss of the game is the Tiki Brothers. Hit the blue fireballs back at the Tiki Brothers, even though I'm pretty sure the blue fireballs would burn even more, because if I remember correctly, I think blue flames are far hotter than that of yellow flames, and again, I might be completely bastardizing science here when I say this, but aren't blue flames supposed to be hotter? I don't know. Then again, that probably just says a lot about me, because I'm a dumbass who plays video games instead of paying attention in science class, because I knew for a fact that I probably wasn't going to use it for the rest of my life, and I'm not a scientician, or sciencey wizard thing. Anyway, jump over the fireballs, or fire waves I should say, and you should be fine, and kill all 3 of the Tiki Brothers. Because we are murderous geckos. Take this. And with that, the Tiki Brothers are destroyed, and we have made Rez rather angry. Anyway, with that, we have unlocked the next area, and on that note, I am Skully, keep it new metal, and next time on the Gex 3D Enter the Gecko commentary, well, we'll be playing more of the game. See you next time.
Nice try, big boy.